Well, hello darling, Christopher here, aka Plant Queen, and I am the plant parent to over 200 green girls in my little Brooklyn, New York apartment. And you may have seen, a little tour of my home. One of the ways that I enjoy filling my space with green girls is not just from buying plants, but actually propagation. So darling, we're gonna get into a little activity. And so basically propagation is when you take a mother plant, take a cutting or a snipping and create a whole new other plant. And so today on the little botanical stage, we have Miss Snake Plant. I really enjoy this queen for a bunch of different reasons. They are wonderful air purifiers, according to NASA. And they are just so resilient and easy to care for. So, propagation, very simple, very easy. The first thing that you want to make sure that you do is some research on how to propagate that plant, right? And the reason is because different plants require different strategies and techniques in terms of propagation, right? Because of the anatomy of the plant. And so the snake plant is all leaves, all right? And all you need. Handy dandy shears, all right? And what you would basically do is just take a snipping of a particular leaf. So I would never cut right at the top. I would do somewhere mid-level of the plant so that you're giving that leaf enough body mass in order to continue to suck up that delicious, nutritious sunshine, right? So you just want to make sure that she has enough body. So I would do mid-level, and you would let that calcify for a day or two before you place that leaf in water. And so I've had this snake plant leaf sitting in water for about a month now. And one of the beautiful things about snake plants is that they are slow growers, right? And there's something beautiful about that slow new growth, right? It incites patience. When you are propagating a plant leaf or a plant vine, you want to make sure that the water stays fresh. And so I typically try to change the water every 2 weeks. And you want to make sure that the water is not ice cold or really hot. You want tepid, room temperature water. As you can see, there's a little bit of algae buildup at the bottom. If I was not putting this queen in some soil, I would definitely be changing the water. A question that I often get is, how do you know when the plant leaf or the plant vine, whatever you're propagating, is ready for soil? What I encourage folks to do, be patient and let those roots mature. And so these roots are about 2.5 inches long, which is a good time for these roots to touch that soil. Now we're going to get into some soil components, darling, because it's very important that you're creating a nutritious foundational layer for that green girl to spread her roots, honey. The first thing that you're going to need is a planter. And so this pot is a terracotta pot, and I really enjoy terracotta pots because they're inexpensive and I'm a queen on a budget, all right? Terracotta pots are also wonderful because they are made of a porous material which allows for the soil to breathe. It allows for the moisture to escape the pot, the soil. And as a classic overwatering plant parent, this is a way to ensure that I'm not overwatering my plant because the soil is breathing. Now, soil. Soil is the foundation that our green girls enjoy sinking their roots into. And potting mix is a beautiful thing. And so while the standard potting mixes already have beautiful, wonderful, nutritious components already in the packages that you may purchase at your local plant shops or nurseries, I like to add a little bit more just to spark it up with a little pizzazz. And so I actually make my own soil mixture recipes. So the first thing that we have is fir bark. And I really, really enjoy fir bark because it has this wonderful aroma, divine, that comes from the wood after you water a particular plant. It allows for the soil to create a porous foundation that allows the water to go straight through the pot. You do not want the water sitting at the top of the pot. The next component is perlite, and it's these little white rocks that are basically pressurized volcanic rock. And it also adds texture to the soil, allows the soil to be well drained, and is often already in standard potting mixes. But I like to add a little bit more because what? She's an overwaterer and she cannot get enough of that well drained soil, darling. Next, I have a standard compost mix, which is basically plant matter, animal matter, and allows for a slow release of nutrition to the roots of your green girl. It decreases the chances that you're going to over fertilize and burn the roots of your plants, which can often happen with synthetic fertilizer. So going with compost and just mixing it into the mix allows you to not have to worry about fertilizing your plants for quite some time. Then if you want to get a little fancy, you want to add a little ambiance to that planter, say you have a cactus, you may want to add some horticultural sand. And so I just like to add it on the top layer of cacti or succulents. Sometimes I do it for my snake plant. And this just adds like a little bit of a feel of that natural habitat that those plants may come from. So I tend to use this for more desert green girls. And then one thing that I forgot to mention about terracotta pots that I really enjoy is the drainage hole, right? And so drainage holes are really, really important because it allows for the water to fall through the planter. There's no water just stagnant at the bottom of the pot, which could cause root rot, and we're just not here for any of that nonsense, darling. If you have a situation where you come across a planter and you're like, girl, I must have it, it's a must, and she does not have a drainage hole, there's some options, right? The first thing you could do is drill a hole into that planter. Now you would have to have a drill and you have to be pretty handy. I typically do not handle drills, and so I've come up with another option. These are lava rocks. Put these rocks at the bottom of the planter and it raises the soil and the roots above any extra water that may reside at the bottom of the pot. And so this is just another way that you can make sure that the soil is not staying wet for too long and that the roots are not going to experience root rot. All right, darling, let's get into potting Miss Snake plants, all right? And so the potting mix is about 50% potting soil, 25% fir bark, and 25% perlite. And the reason that I'm doing this is because the snake plant is used to well-drained soil and do not like sitting in wet, soggy soil. So this potting mixture recipe is going to ensure that the soil dries out quickly when you soak this queen with that delicious H2O, all right? And so think about how the roots are coming from a very wet environment, and then if you're putting them in a very harsh, dry soil, that can damage the roots and it can cause a great root shock. And so what we want to do is try to ease that shock and lessen that shock as much as possible. And so I've watered the soil and I've let it sit overnight so that it's a little damp in preparation for those roots. And if you want to get your hands dirty, use your hands. I enjoy getting my hands a little dirty, or you can use some gloves, you can get a little shovel, whatever you want to do that makes you feel comfortable, but I'm going to use my hands, honey. So take a little handful, just create a little layer. We do not want the roots touching the bottom of the pot, darling. You want the root to be coming in contact with only soil. So I'm gonna take the queen out of her glass jar, all right? And look at those roots, absolutely gorgeous and lush. And she has a little pup growing out of her leaf. And so I'm quite sure in a couple of weeks, this little pup is going to grow into a fabulous, lush little leaf, honey. So I'm gonna test it. I think she can probably use a little bit more soil. So I think that is a good length right there. She's not sinking into the pot. All her roots are coming in contact with the soil. And so now what I'm gonna do is just make sure that I cover those roots with the soil. just make sure that she can stand up on her own. Isn't she just looking gorgeous right here? And then you just want to press down slightly just to make sure there's not too many air pockets, but not too tight because you don't want to damage those roots, right? So a light little press just to make sure she's nice and snugged and positioned. So I'm gonna get our little saucer to catch that water because there is a drainage hole here, all right? So I'm gonna get that, bam, pop that in. Then we're gonna give her a delicious drink of that H2O. Because the soil is very new and hasn't settled yet, you may see that the water resides at the top. But over time, there's going to be little air pockets that are created by the perlite and the fir bark that when you immediately water this queen, the water is just going to go straight through the soil. And so, darling, there you have it. Propagation is a fabulous, inexpensive way to continue to green up your home, honey. Darling, have you tried plant propagation? Let me know in the comments below. And be sure to check out my home tour, also linked below. I'll see you soon, honey.